It's Socom! It's its first two! Yes!
You see that fat kid right there? Yeah, that's me. Christmas of 2003 is a day that I look back at with very fond memories, as that was the day that I found Socom.
A hostage has been killed.
Before this day, I wasn't an online player. Counter-Strike 1.6 was like the pinnacle of multiplayer at the time, but we didn't really game on the PC outside of games like Roll Cage or Draken. And by this time in 2003, SOCOM 1 was already thriving, but we didn't have the network adapter, so I wasn't really playing online. Until this Christmas, my sister and I got the network adapter, the microphone, and SOCOM 2. Now, my sister was the one who actually asked for all of this stuff. She had a big group of friends, and all of the guys in there were playing this game called SOCOM. And my 11-year-old brain at the time didn't really know, nor did I care about it at all. So my sister asked and got all this cool shit, then didn't really play it too often. So for me, I was sitting there grinding out my reps on games like My Street. I was like, well, I mean, fuck it. I'll try it out and see what it's like. And that moment changed my life forever. Because when you really think about it, the life that I'm living now, the career path that I am on, it all stems from that Christmas day in 2003. We even filmed ourselves playing SOCOM 2 and SOCOM 3. I mean, look at the snipe right here. I literally dome my best friend Adam, fucking take his head clean off. It's just what we did. Long, scraggly hair, a fat body covered by a West Coast Choppers t-shirt, and SOCOM. That was literally my life. When I first jumped into SOCOM, I was blown away at not only the quality of the game itself, the fact that we got a whole single-player campaign where you can actually lead your teammates using voice communication. It was something that blew my mind as a kid, but the fact that you could then go online and play in, I believe it was over 20 maps at the time. You had the classics, the Frostfires, the Crossroads, Desert Glory, Vigilance, Night Stalker. There were a few bad maps, but a lot of the content that we got, like, it was insane. A lot of people look back at like the origination of esports and they say that games like Counter-Strike and more specifically games like Halo 2 were the ones that really brought it to the forefront. But a lot of people don't realize that before esports that we know today was a thing called MLG, and before MLG it was a thing called Game Battles, which was originally spawned from a website called SOCOMbattles.com. The console esports scene that we know of today originated on SOCOM. When you look back at articles and you saw that SOCOM 2, one game on the PlayStation platform, trumped all of Xbox Live back in 2004, it really puts into perspective just how big this franchise was. And for those of you who are wondering why SOCOM was so successful back then, I think we could point to real life politics and look at the fact that the US was just entering into the Iraq War in 2003, which means propaganda was at an all-time high, but with that came a lot of awesome games like America's Army and like SOCOM. SOCOM was incredible to me because you had a full single-player campaign. I believe in SOCOM 2 there was 12 missions, and you could voice command your squad to do certain things, from fire at will to follow to deploy satchels and grenades, and it was this tactical shooter all wrapped up with the gameplay standard of an arcade shooter. Back then in the single-player campaign, it was fast-paced, it was slow, it was tactical, it was stealthy, and it was fucking awesome. It introduced me into that entire world. At the time, my dad was a huge fan of Ghost Recon, so he was playing Ghost Recon on the PC while I was playing SOCOM on the PS2. And in doing that, it made him kind of get interested in console gaming. It made me get into PC gaming, playing Ghost Recon with him, looking into more games like Splinter Cell as they were coming out. It was the turning point for my childhood to go from these cartoony children's games into the military, the tactical shooters that I'm such a huge fan of today. Online was a whole different fucking animal. You had 8v8 engagements, SEALs versus terrorists. You had loadout customization in SOCOM 1 and 2, which then built upon itself in future iterations to where you can now change your choices of sights and lasers and suppressors and foregrips. And just watching this franchise progress was both a good and a bad thing. I mentioned earlier that it was an 8v8 game, which I thought was perfect for the size of the maps that you had, the objectives that you had to play on. It wasn't just TDM, it was suppression, it was VIP hostage escorts, there was demolition, and not just our basic demolition. You had maps where there was a bomb in the middle and both teams had to fight over it, or you had maps like Sujo where the SEALs started with the bomb and had to take it all the way across the other side of the map, plant it, defend it, and blow up the terrorist kind of drug warehouse that they had going on. The objective-based gameplay in the multiplayer back in 2003 was some of the best that obviously I had ever seen. The maps were designed around one specific game mode, so it's not like I could go into Crossroads and play Deathmatch or play Suppression or Hostage Extraction. Crossroads was built for demolition. The bomb spawned in the middle, both teams fought over it. It was one of the most balanced maps in the game, and it was built for that game mode. Desert Glory was built for hostage extraction. Frostfire was built for suppression. Each of these maps accompanied one specific game mode, and I thought that that design was fucking beautiful, and of course, they changed it later. With SOCOM 3 ramping it up to 16v16 with large-scale environments, vehicle gameplay with Hummers and tanks, it just didn't work for me personally, but a good thing is they still offered small 8v8 game mode, so you could play the large mode, you could play the small mode, and you could tell that all the old SOCOM OGs were playing in the small maps like Harvester, Killing Fields, Crucible, Citadel. Classic fucking maps in a game that I think is severely overlooked due to the franchise starting to change what people like about it. They started to try to compete with the big boys, the Battlefields, the Call of Duties, which is what inevitably killed the franchise. They started to chase trends, they couldn't stay in their lane, and they gave up one of their most profitable and one of the biggest multiplayer franchises that Sony has ever seen. SOCOM Confrontation was a game that wasn't made by the original dev team at Zipper, but instead was handed off to another dev team out of Canada named Slant 6. And with that came a budget that was severely lacking and a team that tried to do their absolute best under the circumstances that Sony gave them. And in my opinion, SOCOM Confrontation launched in such a piss-poor state that it threw off the game for the rest of its lifespan. But about a year after that launch, once a lot of the major bugs were fixed, SOCOM Confrontation was one of the best pushes forward for the franchise that we had seen thus far. It offered large-scale engagements with 16v16, but at the end of the day, everybody was playing the main game mode, and it was actually really enjoyable. But then Zipper came in for SOCOM 4, and they took so many steps back, including changing how the game felt, adding a cover system, and chasing trends like Call of Duty. They forgot what made this game special, or at least they ignored what made this game special, and alas, it launched in 2011, right before the PlayStation Network crash, which took the game out right as it was starting to get off the ground. With that said, at that point, all the SOCOM fans that were waiting for SOCOM 4 already saw the writing on the wall. We played the game, we played the beta, and we knew that it wasn't the SOCOM game that we wanted. And since this time, Sony hasn't really invested in a lot of multiplayer franchises. Sony gave up in the online multiplayer space, and it's really unfortunate because 20 years later, you still have a very active fan base of people who want this game to return to form. And since Sony has dropped the ball so bad, there has been other projects coming left, right, and center from indie development teams who have tried to recapture that magic and just haven't hit the mark. The H Hours, the Project Confrontation, the Task Forces, all of those games have fallen flat on their faces. The only project that I can say has been completely successful for the revival of SOCOM is the Revival Servers project, where they have literally reverse engineered the servers to be able to play these games online to this day. You could download an emulator. If you own SOCOM, you can pop it in and you can download this reverse engineered patch to allow you to play online on SOCOM 2, 3, Combined Assault, and Confrontation. And I'm going to have a link to that down below because at this moment, that is literally the only way you can relive the glory days of SOCOM. I understand that playing the game today might not be the most satisfying experience ever, but when I jump on and I play on these servers and I see the people still trying to keep this game alive, it kind of warms my heart a little bit because this game deserved better. This franchise deserved better, and it's nice to see a lot of other people out there on the internet share that passion for SOCOM that I still have to this day. I wanted to make this video to make sure that at least somebody is talking about this franchise on its 20-year anniversary and that we don't just get a tweet from Sony. I wanted to show you guys that I'm still actively seeking an experience that keeps me engaged the way that the SOCOM franchise did. My name is BigFry. Thank you guys for watching. Happy 20-year anniversary to SOCOM, and I'll see you on the next one.